Each week, nearly a dozen movies are released theatrically. 40 films a month, more than 400 a year. That's a plethora of cinema. Too much cinema. You'd have to be an addict to see all that. But don't fret. We've got you covered. This is CinemAddicts.
Hey everyone, what's up? It's a new week of CinemAddicts. This is CinemAddicts episode 254. I'm joined by Eric Holmes, and we are covering movies that are coming out for the week of August 9th, 2024. Some movies covered this week include Cuckoo, Happy Campers, The Instigators, and Running on Empty. And Bruce also will be bringing up the rear, so to speak, family show, and he'll be talking about Trap. Oh no, that's Eric. Eric might talk about a little bit about Trap. Bruce has some recommends, hopefully with Lisa Frankenstein and an Apple TV Plus series called Sunny. And he also has some, I think he covered a couple of the featured movies as well. So we have a lot to cover, some good stuff. I think personally the most interesting stuff to cover is right off the lead because Eric, you are in Los Angeles.
I am.
How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. Hanging out in the Airbnb. Got to meet one of my co-hosts this weekend. His name's Greg.
Right.
He's a pretty cool guy.
Very good. Well, you've already met me several years ago, and we've already covered this. You and Andrew Martin were here. We went bowling, correct? But we really didn't know each other then, right? We really kind of didn't know each other.
But this weekend I got to meet a more mature vintage Greg.
No, very good. Yes. What Eric means is I'm slowly and gradually leaving this, shedding this mortal coil. I'm getting really old now. I'm an old human being. Joining us on our escapade is one Peter Beta from Middle Class Film Class. You've never met him before either, Eric. What was your impression?
Not in person. Of course, we talked online and stuff like Zoom, but yeah, it was the first time meeting him. I had some issues with the car rental, but he picked me up from the airport, and me and him stayed at this lovely place.
I'm getting a bad Wi-Fi connection. You said you had huge issues with Peter Beta. What's wrong with him? Hello?
No, the car rental place. Okay. No issues at all with Peter.
Okay. All right. No, we love Peter Beta. All three of us ate at this place called this fine establishment called the Hard Rock Cafe. Horrible news, though, even though I got to know Eric Holmes and Peter Beta on a more personal level. Great to talk about Pete and his podcast and his travels to Portugal. Eric, you're just getting to know him better. The bad news of the whole thing was, well, the good news is I got to really meet them. Bad news is I picked up the check. I mean, that's a horrible news, right, Eric? I mean,
that was good news for me, but yeah, that'd be bad news for you.
Since we're miles away from Hard Rock Cafe, was the food actually passable for you? Was it?
It actually looked exactly as it did on the menu. I was okay. Actually, mine looked better. Like, I looked at the pulled pork sandwich and I'm like, yeah, it looks pretty good. I'll try it. And then it gets there. I'm like, should I actually taken a picture of this and put it on the menu because this version looks better than what you got pictured.
So speaking of that,
5 stars would recommend.
5 stars. Also 5 stars that you would recommend, I'm assuming, Eric Holmes, is you're going to talk to Pete this Wednesday about our whole experience on the Film Vault, so that for a deeper dive, as well as most deeper dives with anything, go check out Peter Beta and his crew for Middle Class Film Class. But just the TFV live show, I don't know how you actually title it. You would give that show 5 stars as well. What made it a special evening for you in general, the Film Vault live show?
Well, first of all, I would not give it 5 stars. I would give it 6.9 stars.
Corrected. I apologize.
Total banger. But yeah, it was awesome. Got to obviously meet you, Pete, Anderson, Brian, Avery, Florence.
Florence is great.
Was an absolute sweetheart.
Cookies. She brought cookies.
Yeah.
She checked everyone in with her cohort. His name escapes me right now, but he was also good. That both those people were checking in people at the VIP lounge.
He lives up in Boulder, Colorado. I found out. So I gave him my email address. I'm like, next time we come out, let me know. I'll come out with you. We'll come together holding hands.
Okay, family show. Here's the thing: you got to meet other people too, right? Have you known any of the other people over at the Film Vault and whatnot?
I know some people by name, just like Anderson, like mentioning them, like on the show. Like Nick Eats Cake, got to meet him. He's cool. Alex Simpson. I think I met him through we're doing a playthrough of that Film Vault game.
Sure.
With Mitch Burns, and so met him through that, and so got to meet him in person, and yeah, a bunch of people I knew kind of by name, but not really ever seen them before. So it was kind of neat putting faces with names, and then other people I didn't know at all, and yeah, there wasn't a bad apple in the bunch. Everyone was real nice, friendly, partied. It was pretty sweet.
Yeah, I didn't stay for the post show because I wanted to get home and see my niece and whatnot. And I'm horrible with people, but how was the post show? Like everyone stayed an hour or so after?
Well, first of all, this being the second time you've been outside since the last time I came into town.
That's true. That's true.
It was a sight to behold, but
yeah,
the post show was just basically us sitting in the lobby of the theater, just drinking Modelo's and bull crapping.
Okay, good. That's fine. Family show. No problem. Speaking of family, I want to just throw an aside before we get back to the TFE, just commenting on it. Mitch Burns from the Hollywood Persona, part of the Film Vault family, as well as CinemAddicts family, podcaster himself. Wow. Your comments on him actually purchasing a shower curtain from our CinemAddicts merch store, the CinemAddicts shower curtain. Did you think Eric Holmes that day would ever come?
No. I mean, I didn't think it wouldn't, like, it happened, but had I known ahead of time, I probably would have tried to talk him out of it. Like, don't get it. People are going to think you're a murderer. It's fine. Well, but he did get one, and he took a picture of it and posted it, and I think that's pretty damn good. So if you want to pick up a shower curtain, there's more where that came from.
I'm surprised the logo showed up pretty nice on that black shower curtain. It looks pretty daunting, but we did it on a lark, and it's a running bit that we had with the shower curtain, and Mitch Burns one-upped us on our running bit, and he actually exploded the bit by actually purchasing the shower curtain. Thank you, Mitch Burns. And for more merch, Joe, just check out cinematics.podcast.com. But most importantly, listen to Mitch Burns over at the Hollywood Persona. Just a great, great human being, and contributes both to the Film Vault and the CinemAddicts communities as well. Going back to the Film Vault, Eric Holmes, what was your favorite part of the actual evening? I mean, the show itself. What was your highlight?
It had to have been, and I don't know if we want to spoil this because I think
maybe you're right.
I think they're
right.
I think they're like replaying it on their. I don't know if they're doing it on the Patreon feed or whatnot, but
sure.
If you haven't seen it yet, I'm not gonna spoil it. But Avery had a bonus clip that he played at the very end. As soon as I saw frame one, I knew exactly what it was, and it was like, "Oh, I'm not this movie."
That was very well. For people interested in the Film Vault live show, check out their Patreon. I'm assuming they have the entire video up on their feed if you weren't there at the event. And it's a really great show. And the great thing about the Film Vault, not only do they do a public service with just covering movies in general, evergreen movies, new movies, but their community, the Film Vault community, is quite excellent. And they're growing. They continue. It was great to see the Film Vault alumnus Logan Moy there, and also
Brian Chandler was there.
Yeah, Miss Movies Part 1, right? Yeah. Brian Chandler. I don't know if that's the right term, but yeah, Brian Chandler was there. Some really good stuff. We were missing Diana Vandekamp. Would have been great if she was there.
Yeah, and Miss 2 V's. And Miss 3 V's, I guess.
So anyways, we don't have to promote it because they're a very popular movie podcast, but CinemAddicts, co-created by Anderson Cowan, but we owe a lot of our, I guess, DNA to the Film Vault because they started it all even, I think, almost 10 years ago before CinemAddicts. So props to them. Also, Eric, what did you think of my question at the end of the show?
I forgot what it was.
You forgot.
Oh,
Sorry,
no,
Eric,
I do remember.
How dare you? You're a professional interviewer. You should know these things.
That doesn't mean I remember things.
Okay.
But I do remember. I don't remember word for word, but it was, what does Brian like best about Anderson, and was Anderson like best about Brian? Something along those lines.
I specifically asked Anderson, what's the thing that you love and admire the most about Brian? And Brian, what is the thing that you love and admire the most about Anderson?
Brian just rattled off a bunch of things, got to Anderson. He's like, "You're here. Hey, buddy."
And spoiler alert, Anderson said F Greg, F me several times during his response. So it was really cool. Some good stuff with one of the great things about the Film Vault is, and I told this to Pete and Eric during our lunch at the Hard Rock, that they really have a deep-seated, not a hatred towards each other. They have a deep-seated love and affection for each other, but it comes out on the Film Vault in a wholly different manner. So it's sort of bickering, one's being smug, that smug person being Brian. It's a really cool bit that they've done for all these years, but a lot of it is based on really good friendship. Unlike the friendship I have with Eric and Bruce, which is completely superficial. So unfortunately, I'm sorry, Eric, I had to throw it out there. We just cover movies.
We know what time it was when we got in bed together. It's fine.
Yeah, it's all about screening links. And once the movies are gone, by the way, in fact, this is how much we actually kicked off Bruce from the actual show, and he's still staying on that attic in your residence. Is he being taken care of, Eric Holmes right now?
I wouldn't know
Did you
until
call
I
your
get back
family?
home.
You didn't call any of your family members to
I can't call my family. They can't know he's up there.
Gosh, all right. Well,
wait, nuts?
listeners, please do not call regarding Bruce Purkey. I think he's really happy in Eric Holmes' attic over in Colorado. We'll not give you Eric's address because we don't want you to track Bruce down and help him
hold
out.
Hold on a second.
You got 1 second. Oh, you got it.
No.
What happened?
That's not good. From my sister.
Oh, yeah?
There's a funny smell coming from the attic. Think you might.
Well, I hope
Bruce might not be on this week.
Well, okay. Well, I'm gonna have to text him because if he's really in failing health, I might have to text him that he really does need to record his segment of CinemAddict this week, just so we could get it in.
That ship might have sailed. We'll see what happens.
Okay, we'll see. Okay, folks.
Once we're done here, I'll be ordering a shower curtain to next day air to the house.
Okay, so listeners over CinemAddicts, please, you did not hear what Eric just said. And again, props.
Just a funny smell. Just getting a shower curtain. It's fine.
We're very
nothing untoward going on.
The saddest thing about it, Eric, is if something untoward did actually happen, Bruce Purkey's segment of the week is left empty. So we're gonna have to find someone new on CinemAddicts. It's a big hassle.
AI will handle that.
Oh, AI, very good, very good. Thank you, Eric. You are the great pitch and idea man of CinemAddicts. So Bruce Purkey, you will quote unquote be missed, right? You will be missed.
He will live on.
Okay, very good, Eric Holmes. And look, before we get to our features, props to the community over at the Film Vault. Thank you, Peter Beta, for spending time with me and Eric. Eric Holmes, don't ever lie down on Hollywood Boulevard with a throng of people who could step over you ever again. I had so much neurosis watching that. How were you able to do that? Lying down on a star or whatever, a footprint or whatever. How did you do that on a baking sun, Hollywood Boulevard? You don't do that. Why'd you? Yeah.
Well, George Carlin mentioned I swam in raw sewage as a child, so germs do not affect me. And as far as heat, grew up in the Midwest, so I'm used to that as well.
So it wasn't as bad as one would think when you were.
It was bad, but I mean, I'm used to it.
It's bad, but you were used to it. Hopefully, bad turns into good when we cover this week's features. Let's get straight to the big one this week, and that is the Instigators. It will not be in theaters. So before, when we would say that, and it's a movie review podcast maybe several years ago, or maybe even the years when the Film Vault started, way back when, I'm thinking maybe 2006 or 2007, I don't know specifically the year, most people were going to movies. Now, sometimes by saying this movie won't be in theaters is not such a big tragedy, because sometimes you get some really good, entertaining films at the comfort of your own home. And if you are a hermit like me who only goes out for things like meeting Eric and Pete at the Film Vault thing, it's a good news, because Matt Damon and Casey Affleck star in a pretty big movie called The Instigators, directed by Doug Liman. Doug Liman and Matt Damon, they reunite after 20 plus years. I don't know specifically, but they worked together on The Bourne Identity. The Bourne Identity launched Matt Damon's career onto a completely higher level, and Doug Liman went on to just direct some really great movies. Most notably,
Roadhouse.
Yes, Roadhouse. So we know, I'm assuming Eric Holmes might be in the bag for the Instigators because it's directed by Doug Liman. I don't specifically know how Eric feels about Matt Damon. He will express his opinions in a few moments. Casey Affleck, a longtime friend of Matt Damon, co-star of that Matt Damon movie, Good Will Hunting, years ago. They also worked together, I think, on the Ocean's movies. And what other movie did they work together, Eric Holmes? Do you know?
Oh, Jerry.
Very good, Eric Holmes.
I want to say there's another one, but I can't think of what that would be.
I'm sure maybe one of them made a cameo on one of their movies. But yeah, Jerry, directed by Gus Van Sant some years ago. I never saw that. Was that any good, Eric?
Just a lot of walking. So if you like In a Violent Nature, you'll be right at home with Jerry.
Oh, wait, you stop for a second. What did you think of Jerry?
A lot of walking.
Oh, a lot of walking?
If you like In a Violent Nature, he'll be right at home with Jerry.
Oh, okay. That's very, very interesting. So now the Instigators, it centers on Rory and Cobby. I'm going to say Cobby. Rory is played by Matt Damon. Rory is he's really, well, he needs to reconnect with his son. So he has a lot of issues going on, and he needs a certain amount of money to reconnect with his son, or so he thinks. So that's Rory. Cobby is played by Casey Affleck. He's a ex-con, and he's desperate for another score. and he's going into this other score with some of his former or current business associates. And because of these business associates, he was actually in jail for a spell. So it's a very interesting dynamic with Cobby and Rory. There's another person into this operation played by Jack Harlow, and they are tasked with robbing the current mayor of Boston, played by Ron Perlman. And Ron Perlman from Sons of Anarchy. He's a corrupt politician. They try to rob him in election night. This heist, however, goes south, and Rory and Cobby must like really escape the politician and his henchmen, and also escape from the cops, and a lot of corrupt things going on. But they also committed a crime, so it's sort of an interesting thing. Hong Chow plays Rory's therapist, very concerned therapist, and a lot of the movie has these three people, Rory, Cobby, and his therapist, driving and running around Boston to escape the authorities. So that is the premise of the Instigators. A lot of it's part action, a lot of it is comedy, and I think this is just grade A entertainment. Don't really have to put your just thinking cap on, just enjoy the ride. And I had a really good time with the Instigators. What about you, Eric?
I had a great time with the Instigators. Yeah, I kind of want to say who else is in it, but I think, well, the thing is, I had a lot of fun watching it, and people would pop up and go, "Oh, dang, they're in this.
I know.
Oh, dang, I can't believe they're showing up." And so I would say, if you want to know it, just look it up on IMDb, or just watch it. And when certain people pop up, you'll be like, "Oh crap, they're in this. This is awesome."
Yeah.
And they usually have really good parts. Who's the guy that starts up the whole thing?
Oh, that's Michael Stolberg. He's the guy who owns
A Serious Man.
Yes, he's the lead in Serious Man, and he was the father in Call Me by Your Name. He's a very good actor. Yes, Michael Stolberg.
Yeah, it took me forever to figure out who he was, because I was thinking Mandy Patinkin at first. I was like, man, Mandy Patinkin looks good in this.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not Mandy Patinkin. Well, but his character was great. Another character that shows up when I will say when a house blows up. Not a spoiler, because that happens like 3 or 4 times in this movie.
Yeah,
I think that's one of Casey Affleck's like go-to moves. He'll cut the gas line, and then they're just sitting there. And it's like, you smell something? Oh no, it's not. It's just the place blowing up.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. Yeah,
who knew that blowing up buildings could be pure comedy? But it is. And
yeah, within this fabric, right? It's pretty much more. I think at most it's a comedy, really.
Yeah, this has like Big Lebowski energy to it, because like it's got the lines that are funny, but I think like you go back to this 3, 4, 5, 6 more times, it'll just get funnier every time.
Yeah, yeah, and I guess per Eric's wishes, we will not mention who else is in this movie, because you will note when you see them, it is a nice thing, even though, like Eric mentioned, in the plot summary of this Apple TV Plus movie, The Instigators, they list all of these wonderful part of the ensemble. But I was thinking the same thing as Eric. There is a reveal towards, I'd say, maybe 35% into the movie regarding either a police investigator or just an enforcer on the police force. And when you realize who that person is, it's a great, cool reveal. Yeah. And we don't want to spoil it for you. And that person, yeah.
There's another guy giving a speech. It's like, is that? Oh, that is.
Yeah,
that is the.
Yeah. So some really good.
When you're watching it and you're just kind of thinking to yourself, is that who I think it is? It's probably exactly who you think it is.
Yeah. So the Instigators, I think if I have, it's not a complaint. I will just say this though, because it really did receive its share of mixed reviews. I don't know why. It's just a fun movie, well written. By the way, Casey Affleck is a co-writer in this movie. The only thing is, all of these characters are so fun. You want a little bit more of them, because all of these, but that's the whole dynamic. It reminds me of True Romance, where you wanted a little bit more of Chris Walken, but he's just in it for a little bit. It's okay. You wanted more Dennis Hopper. And in this Instigators, I think I wanted more of a lot of the incidental characters, the supporting characters, but that's not the movie. The movie is really focused on Rory, Cobby, and the therapist. And yeah, for me, grade A entertainment. Turn off your brain, enjoy it. If you don't want to go out Friday night or Saturday night, you have a really good movie. on Apple TV Plus. 4 stars for me. What about you, Eric?
That seems incredibly low, but
what?
I mean,
4 out of 5 stars. That's above average, Eric.
Yeah, this one's comfort food for me. Like this is one I could just go back and watch over and over again.
Oh,
Like it feels like it came out in the 90s. This would be like one of the classics, like Lebowski or Fight Club, or not even those kind of movies. True Romance is probably a good pull. Pulp Fiction's probably a good example of like movies where you Dazed and Confused. You know, because it's not so much about the plot, it's about hanging out with the characters. And even like you said, I agree that some of the characters I wish we could spend more time with. But once they're done, they introduce another character and it's interesting and just as funny. And this is just, I think I'm giving it 6.9 now. This could go up on rewatches and probably will go up on a rewatch. I don't know what it's going to go up to.
Well,
6.9 is as high as you can go, but I mean, this movie's just going to age like fine wine.
At the end of this year, I know it might be too soon to tell, but we're already in August, actually. Could it be one of your top 10 or top 20 films of 2024? Just right off the top of your head.
Oh, definitely top 20, probably top 10 as well.
Okay.
The weird thing is, do I keep this or do I keep Roadhouse? Maybe put them neck and neck. I don't know, because I love both of them. I would say, because I know a lot of people don't like Roadhouse, I think people are going to dig this a lot more than Roadhouse. But yeah. I feel like the Dazed and Confused, Big Lebowski type movies, even Gone Baby Gone, like the less serious parts of Gone Baby Gone, the more kind of jovial, fun parts of that, I think you'll fit right in with this.
Okay, so that is 6.9 stars for Eric Holmes, 4 stars for me, a low rating, said Eric Holmes. We'll see. Tell us what you think of The Instigators when it comes out on Apple TV Plus Friday, August 9th. Now, there is a movie called Cuckoo that I saw maybe 3 weeks ago. So I'm going off memory here, but it centers on a 17-year-old girl named Gretchen, played by Hunter Schafer. She leaves her American home to live with her dad, and he's just moved into a resort in the German Alps with his new family. Arriving at their residence, they are greeted by a strange man known as Mr. Koenig. Mr. Koenig is played by Dan Stevens, and Mr. Koenig is her father's boss. And the thing with Mr. Koenig is he's very interested in her mute half-sister, Alma. There is some kind of connection that Gretchen is trying to figure out. That said, Gretchen really doesn't want to be in the German Alps. She wants to be back home in America. She's a rebellious teen. She ends up taking a front desk job at a hotel in the area that's owned by Mr. Koenig. The thing is, when she takes this job, Mr. Koenig tells her, whatever you do, call me if you need transportation. Do not go out late at night. Close up early at a certain time and make sure you go home at a very early time, because if you reach a certain time, things might get a little bit, he didn't say crazy, but he's basically telling her, past this point, leave. And she is a teen. So sometimes teens don't listen to adults. And when she starts not paying attention to these orders, she realizes there might be strange noises, individuals, and visions outside this mini hotel that she works at and the area. So that is the premise of Cuckoo. Ultimately, what happens is Gretchen goes into this dark, deep spiral of this entire world in this area that is threatening, and she's wondering, are people disappearing from this area? Who are these weird creatures? Are they creatures at night? What is going on? And a lot of times you're going to think to yourself, what is going on with Cuckoo? What's great about this director, Tilman Singer, he actually creates a really just broody, scary atmosphere in Cuckoo, and it's very weird. I'm going to actually add some real color to this review with Eric's own thoughts on this Tillman's previous film, Lose. What made that movie a special experience for you from your recollection watching Lose, Eric?
Actually, I really what you're describing with the Cuckoo. It's a strange and definitely atmospheric movie. It's I don't know how long Cuckoo was. I know Lose is pretty short, like 70 minutes. It just kind of gets in, gets out. Yeah. And it's got a Lucio Fulci kind of vibe to it, or like a Lucio Fulci, Stanley Kubrick kind of marriage to it. It's really pretty and dark, dirty looking. And it's one. Well, first of all, Luz is the whole reason why I found Luz the Flower of Evil.
Yeah.
Because I saw Luz, loved that, and then I think we covered it probably on either Finder Film or maybe even before that movie Mainline.
Wow. Okay.
But I saw Luz, loved that, and then Luz the Flower of Evil. Like I watched that, and that ended up being great. And yeah, it's good stuff.
Okay.
So,
You might, I don't know if you have time, you might watch Cuckoo this weekend, right? You might give that a shot.
oh yeah, definitely as soon as I can.
Okay, yeah. So Cuckoo, my only complaint with this movie is it builds a world of just mystery and possible evil and violence, and the third act is just completely out of left field. My only complaint is a lot of the stuff isn't completely explained or cleared up by the end of Cuckoo. It leaves things a little bit ambiguous, and I wish things were a little bit more spelled out for me with Cuckoo. So, but that said, I still really recommend Cuckoo. I'm giving it 4 stars. Hunter Schafer, I haven't seen her in Euphoria. I've never seen that. And I haven't seen, she's also a co-star in the movie The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I think a huge reason why to watch this movie is you realize how much of a great leading actress Hunter Schafer could be, because she is the center of Cuckoo and she actually makes it work. Yeah, this is one of these movies that 4 stars right now could go up with a rewatch. But again, the ambiguity towards the end as far as explaining the world that it creates was a little bit of a nitpick for me. But overall, this is worth watching in theaters. Again, 4 stars in theaters, August 9th. All right, Eric Holmes, you have a movie called, it's a rom-com, and it's called Running on Empty. It hits theaters on August 9th, and it'll be on VOD August 27th. Stars Keira Gilchrist and Lucy Hale, Francesca Eastwood, and Jim Gaffigan, who we loved a couple of years ago from that movie. I'm trying to remember what movie from Jim Gaffigan. Linoleum, yeah. Really love Linoleum. Anyways, Running on Empty, it centers on this guy named Mortimer, played by Keira Gilchrist. He's a, quote, odd but clever young man living in California's San Fernando Valley, and then he hears some life-changing news. Determined to make most of his everyday existence, Mort sets on a spirited quest to find meaning in his life and discovers the girl of his dreams along the way. That girl of his dreams is played by Lucy Hale. It's set in the San Fernando Valley. Since I was 10 years old, I've lived in the San Fernando Valley. Actually, I lived a couple years here and there, but I consider myself a San Fernando Valley resident. So this movie kind of hits home as I don't even know if it's a romantic comedy. Is it a drama or whatnot? I don't know. Eric Holmes will mention and talk about Running on Empty right now. What did you think of this movie, Eric?
It's definitely got a romantic comedy feel to it, but it's also a dark comedy because basically they have a service that pinpoints your death day, murders, tragic accidents notwithstanding. And Mortimer's death day is like less than a year. And so he goes to a like a dating service sort of thing. And their whole thing is they like to match people with their death days. And since his is real short, like there's some people that like, oh yeah, you're gonna find a lot of women. They like to just kind of bang and scram, that sort of thing. And since you're dying soon, like there's no commitment. They love that. But it's weird because it's not a typical romantic comedy because he's not looking for love specifically. He's just kind of like, we'll see what happens. But mostly he's just kind of going through life and trying to make the most of what he's got left. And it's real sweet, darkly funny a lot of times, and it's got a little different kind of edge to it that you don't normally see in these kind of movies.
I think I forgot the name of the director. You interviewed the director as well. How did that go? I think you've been doing so many. I'm sorry?
Daniel Andre.
Okay, yeah. And what was it like talking to the director, from, if you can remember any of that discussion?
It was pretty good. Pretty much talking about just that, just kind of the writing. Because there's not, I guess, much like the Instigators, there's not a lot of plot to this. I mean, the plot is he's going to die, and then we're just kind of following him. So we just get to watch a bunch of different fun characters pop in and out of his life. And yeah, it's good stuff.
Is it a sad, bittersweet, sad type of movie?
No, No,
Oh,
not, and you would think a movie about someone dying would be incredibly sad, but no, it was real lighthearted. Even the main character is kind of, I mean, he's a mortician, so he's kind of reserved to that. It's like, hey, you're gonna die in a year. He's like, it happens.
oh.
Like he takes it incredibly well.
Okay, so again, it has also starring in this movie is Monica Potter and yeah, so big Reese Corey Coiro and some really good people. And it's an indie movie, right? It's pretty much an indie film.
Yeah, it's real slick looking. Oh, and Reese plays Simon. His character is freaking hilarious.
Okay. All right. So that is running on.
There's one scene that I was like just cracking up for like 10 minutes, and I can't say because it's a spoiler, but it's good stuff.
Oh, very good stuff. Okay. So running on empty. Eric, what is final thoughts and your rating?
I mean, I can't be giving out 6.9 stars to everything, so I'm gonna go 4.5 on this one. But this one's got room to grow.
Oh,
If you like romantic comedies, this is like top tier version of that.
again, and what makes it so top tier? Is it the performances or is it just that really interesting plot thing where
Definitely the characters. I think the characters, and then just the dark humor of it all, because they just go certain places that you don't expect in a movie like this.
Okay. So that is, again, running on empty. The main cast is Carrie Gilchrist, Lucy Hale, and Francesca Eastwood. Theatrical on August 9th and on VOD August 27th. Finally, there is a movie that I still haven't seen, but I am so excited to see this. Currently, as we speak, Happy Campers. It's a documentary. It's playing in New York through August 13th at the IFC Center. Then on August 21st, it'll be playing at the Lamley Theaters in Los Angeles. And after that, there will be a nationwide VOD release starting September 10th. So most of you listeners here on CinemAddicts will be able to get your access to Happy Campers on September 10th. Hopefully, Eric and I and Bruce will remind you guys of Happy Campers when it comes out on September 10th. But for this purposes, we are covering it right now because it has those really interesting staggered release dates this week at the IFC Center and then in a couple of weeks in Los Angeles. Happy Camper centers on the final days of a working class summer colony in sort of a campground, waterfront campground off the coast of Virginia. Centers on these final days of living in the area from these residents. It's directed by Amy Nicholson. Eric Holmes interviewed Nicholson about a week and a half ago. And I'm assuming the documentary looks at these residences, their lives in amidst their just socializing with their neighbors, living in their RVs, and maybe looks at their own thoughts possibly of leaving that area when that day comes. That again, that is Happy Campers, directed by Amy Nicholson. Eric Holmes, your review of this doc.
Yeah, Amy Nicholson knocked this one out of the park. Basically you got this set up. The trailer park is closing. It's just going to be torn down, and the people there built kind of a community, and they enjoy each other's company. And the whole documentary is just us hanging out with them for like the last month or so before their trailer park gets torn down. And there's not much more to it than that, other than you're hanging out with these characters, enjoying their company, and it's they're funny, sweet, they're just good people. And so it's got kind of that gloom hanging over them that they're all going to be homeless here in like less than a month. But much like Mort in Running on Empty, their spirits are up. The end does get really sad. I mean, no, not to spoil it, but that's what the movie is. On the one thing I did not expect is this movie looks fantastic. Like I'm sure you saw the trailers.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, the way the shots are set up, and then just how Amy Nicholson, I thought she set up the camera and like staged some of the stuff, but apparently that wasn't the case. She just had her black magic camera on, and it's like, oh cool, there's a shot, boom, hit record, and good to go. But yeah, this movie looks amazing. It's not normal. I wouldn't normally recommend you see a documentary in IMAX, and I don't even know if that's going to be available. But if it is, it's totally worth it because this thing looks fantastic.
That's amazing. And by the way,
it looks like a Wes Anderson movie, and it's a documentary.
Yeah, and by the way, Amy Nicholson, she was a one-person crew during the production. She's walking around, like Eric was saying, with this black magic pocket camera, and she's shooting. And I think, and in the interview, she said one of the things that helped her with Happy Campers was she lived in that area for a year and a half before she ever started shooting. So I don't know, Eric, is that why this documentary felt lived in for you? Because it's a person who knew what they were doing as far as the area goes and the people?
Yeah, and also like I think maybe because they were so comfortable with her that you don't get a lot of them the characters breaking the fourth wall because I think they're just attuned to the camera at this point, so they don't even realize it's there, or they probably realize it's there, but they don't. You know, I think maybe once or twice throughout the whole movie, anyone even stares at the camera. But
They're
yeah,
more
so
relaxed. They're not defensive. Their guards
yeah,
are not.
and it kind of helps bring you into their world because you don't feel like you're watching a documentary. You feel like you're living with them.
What do you think Bruce is going to give it when he? Oh well, if Bruce is okay, I don't. Again, Bruce, we hope you're all right. If you are in the hospital right now,
I
please
already,
get better and do a review of Happy Campers. Yes, Eric.
I already programmed the AI to give this one a good review. So.
Okay, but Bruce, you are not needed anymore. Have been replaced by AI. Feel better. Feel better on your journey back to the attic. So you have this week up on and rating on Happy Campers.
Oh, sorry, you broke up there, but
Oh, sorry.
the rating was 6.9 on this as well. There's, I mean, I'm just handing out banger ratings like the last couple weeks, but it's banger season, so what do you expect? But I'd like watch this movie and tell me how it could get better. I don't think it can. It's just
Wow.
it's just for what they're going for. It's not only perfect, it's better than what you could normally get from something like this.
Okay, so this actually looks like a big Happy Campers gem, a really good gem
Oh yeah.
documentary. Yeah. And so again, currently as of this recording, August through August 13th at New York's IFC Center, then in Los Angeles at the Lamley Theaters, August 21st and August 22nd. But then the big release will be for people in US and Canada. It's available on VOD on September 10th. Eric, obviously worth a purchase, correct? Purchase or rental?
Oh yeah, definitely. And again, much like the Instigators, like the characters are so great in this. This is one you'll just want to go back and watch again.
Wow.
Imagine your favorite members of your family, and you have a home video that looks this good. Why wouldn't you go back and watch it over and over and over again?
Wow.
Maybe just switch off between Instigators and Happy Campers. I'd be fine with that. And then throw in Running on Empty in the mix once in a while.
Well, that so many good. And who knows? Maybe I gave too low of a rating with Cuckoo at 4, and then with the Instigators at 4 as well. Maybe Eric will love Cuckoo as well if he gets a chance to see it
If it's
this
anything
weekend.
like Lose, it's hard to think that I wouldn't love it.
Okay, and you know what? Everyone has seen. Should people see Trap this weekend, Eric? Just final thoughts before we go.
Yeah.
Should people check it out?
Actually, you know what? This comes out as we're recording it. This comes out tomorrow, so I should talk about the Mousetrap as well.
Oh,
But
the Mousetrap that will be.
I'll double trap you.
You double trap me on the Mousetrap. Oh yeah, on TVOD and digital platforms on
Yeah.
August 6th. Yeah, tell us about the Mousetrap. What is it about?
Yeah, I'll give you a little taste, and then it comes out on DVD and Blu-ray next week. Somebody would go more in depth then.
Yeah.
But the Mousetrap is,
Maybe you should request for the Blu-ray and DVD from
I
your
mean,
contact. Go for it.
I would go with that. Written by Simon Phillips, starring Simon Phillips as Mickey Mouse, directed by Jamie Bailey. This is a horror movie with the killer Steamboat Willie. So this is one of those. It's got a Winnie the Pooh, blood and honey kind of thing. Like, hey, Mickey Mouse is in the public domain. Let's make a horror movie out of it. This one doesn't it's not rewriting the book on horror. It's pretty basic slasher, but sometimes that's all you need. You just want this is a roll of sweet tarts, as I mentioned last week. It's it's exactly what you would expect. I think they probably could have done this without Mickey Mouse being in the public domain, because it's really just a guy in a Mickey Mouse mask. But either way, that's what they went with. I think that's going to be the main draw for this, and it's silly, it's fun, but it's not life changing. But I don't think it's really trying to be either. It's just a good B slasher movie.
Okay, so what is your rating on the Mousetrap?
I'll probably go 3 stars on this.
Okay.
Just like a regular 3 stars. And then the other one we have is Trapped, the M. Night Shyamalan movie.
Yeah.
Basically, this one is Josh Hartnett's taking his daughter to watch a pop singer concert. Like, I think Ariana Grande, like something like that.
Yeah.
Demi Lovato, like one of those kind of shows. And there's like a bunch of cops in riot gear out front and a bunch of like extra security. And it's like, what's going on? It's like, I'm not supposed to tell you, but have you heard of the butcher? Oh yeah, that psycho that's going around killing people. Yeah, apparently he's here tonight. Cops set this up as a trap, and they're gonna catch him tonight. And Josh Hartnett is the killer. And so the whole movie is he's trying to find out how he's gonna get out, but he can't just sneak out on his own. He's got to sneak out with his daughter, and his daughter doesn't know anything. So it's real suspenseful, and it's just trying to figure out. He's just following around the killer, just trying to figure out how he's going to get out of the trap he was put into. And Josh Hartnett's he's actually really good in this. A little over the top, but kind of in a fun way. I think this is a good one, but I mean, it's a Night Shyamalan, so it's hard to say. I liked it a lot. Other people might hate it. Who knows?
Why would people hate this? Because
I don't know, because there's M. Night Shyamalan movies I love, and other people hate them, and I can't figure out why.
Okay, so
it's just, I think it's just a taste thing, or some people just don't, or maybe he just kind of shot his wad too early with Sixth Sense and Unbreakable, and people seem to think he went downhill since then. I think this is what was
Knock in the Cabin?
Knock in the Cabin. I think I like Knock in the Cabin a little more. I go back and forth between that one and this one.
Old,
but Split, not as good as Split, but better than Old. Old would have been better if that movie went on like that twist ending at the end of Old. If that was like halfway through the movie and they explored that twist a little more, I think I liked Old a lot more. As it was fine.
Glass,
Glass was pretty good. A step down from Split, but still decent. The only one I didn't like was The Happening.
Visit? Oh, The Happening. Okay,
no, The Visit was really good. And I've heard The Last Airbender wasn't good, but I didn't see it, so I couldn't say one way or another.
Okay, but so Trap is just right up there. It's a solid M. Night film, basically.
Yeah. And I would also, I'm going to say something. Cut it out if you think you should.
Sure.
He plays this one pretty straight.
Yeah.
Don't go in waiting for a big twist. There's something there. But don't let that be the make or break for this movie's about watching Josh Hartnett try to get out of a situation. Like if you're trying to figure out the movie, you're watching it wrong.
Oh, yeah, that's weird. Do we even say that? I think that's public service.
I don't know. I'll leave it up to you.
Okay, all right.
I mean, there is something, but it's not. This isn't like, oh, he's seeing dead people the whole time. It's nothing crazy like that.
Yeah. Oh, where did that twist
and I will say, I can't say this. The third act kind of loses me a bit.
Okay.
But
why? Oh, you can't say why it loses. Maybe the lack of...
I can. It starts getting a little... There's some things that happen towards the end that get a little silly. It's like, I don't know if I buy that. I mean, I bought into it this much, so I'll just roll with it. It wasn't a deal breaker, but it kind of loses steam a bit by the third act, but everything leading up to that was so good that I just kind of let it go.
Cool. All right. So these are Eric's recommends as well. And I think we're done for our segment of CinemAddicts, episode 254. Again, This episode is, it might be an AI episode. So listen to our AI Bruce Purkey, maybe Bruce Purkey AI for the cinematic segment. We'll see.
It's a BI.
It's a Bruce Intelligence. Bruce Intelligence. So coming up, check out his reviews. Anything you want to say before we go, Eric Holmes?
Yeah. And next time they do the Film Vault live show, come on and check it out.
I know. It was very, very good times. And also, Eric will be over at his middle class film class to talk about a little bit deeper on the Film Vault as well and give his thoughts on other movies. So we will see you next week here on CinemAddicts. And of course, I was going to say, here's Claire, but I don't even know where Bruce Purkey is, so I'm very neurotic about it. But yes, here's Claire.
Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for joining CinemAddicts.
Well, hello, everybody. Here's another segment from the Cinematic. It's kind of awkward, but that's what it is. And this was an exciting week for CinemAddicts, although maybe not as exciting for me as it was for Greg and Eric. I'm sure they've already talked about it, but they did visit the live event for the Film Vault, and sounds from all accounts that it was a great and fun time. I know that Pete from Middle Class Film Class was there hanging out with Eric. Greg even got out of the house, and like the groundhog, he showed his head. I don't know if that means another 2 months of hot summer. I don't know what that means exactly, but it means something. Anyway, that happened and it sounded like it was a lot of fun. I'm sorry I missed it, but maybe one of these years I'll go out to LA and meet all these people, or go to Colorado and meet Eric. That would be cool too. Okay, this week I don't have very many things to talk about, so I'll go to it quickly. 2 features, which I'm sure that both Eric and Greg talked about as well, but I will give my 2 cents. And then there is going to be 1 or 2 recommendations here today. All right, first up, we have Happy Campers, directed by Amy Nicholson. This is a documentary. Now, this takes place on this little campground called Inlet View Campground on, I could never get the name of it exactly, but it's a little island on the East Coast, a little shore area there where they had this campground. And when they say campground, this is like a place where people go and pull up a dilapidated mobile home or a camper van or something and have it there for the entire summer and kind of have a spot for themselves, just to kind of give you a picture. This is a documentary that will work for some people a great deal and will maybe not work for others. And the reason is this. So most documentaries have a point of view. You know, they're going to follow a character who's trying to, win the world record and shooting the longest basketball and their, efforts to do that, but whatever it might be. There's always some kind of a point to it. This is kind of the opposite. This is the equivalent of a hangout movie, but as a documentary, because the whole point is these people are kind of like the parrot heads. They're on island time. They're on their own wavelength. They're finding peace and tranquility of their own type in this place. Personally, I have a connection to this because I remember every summer, when I was about 15 or 16, my grandma had bought, they had bought this little like mobile home on a tiny plot of land near the Washington coast. And every summer we could go out there. We just owned it. We owned that little spot of land. It was tiny. I wish we still owned it, honestly. Anytime that anyone in the summer in our family wanted to go out there, we'd say, hey, I'm going to go out this weekend. And everyone else would be, cool, you're going out that weekend. We'll go the other weekend. Not a timeshare per se. We owned it. But the idea that you'd go to this place, it wasn't a luxury hotel. It wasn't a luxury at all. It was really just this little mobile home with a couple shells in there and some driftwood on the wall. And you'd go there and you'd barbecue and play lawn darts with real lawn darts, and that you'd hang out and you could go to the beach. Even though Washington beaches aren't the most warm and sandy beaches in the world, it still was a getaway. And this movie is all about that. And it's just meeting the characters who live year to year for a good chunk, at least their summer, at this campground and kind of just hanging out with them. That's this whole movie. Like I said, your enjoyment will vary based on whether you kind of like that hangout atmosphere. Now, the other little twist to this is the campground is on its last legs. It basically, this patch of land has been sold and to developers and will disappear at the end of the summer that we're watching. So this also has a little bit of that bittersweet tone to it that you would get in a movie that's like, you get a lot of these last day of the school year, last day of the summer for a student who has to go off to college and that kind of a thing. So you get a little bit of that in here too, but it's not really hammered over your head. Really, the whole point is you're just hanging out with these people. And I think the real value here is that underneath everything, you don't have it explicitly told to you. But the idea is, this is like real America, right? This is just regular people. These are not the good-looking people. These are older people, middle-aged people, people that maybe work at the local Walmart somewhere, and that in the summer they can actually go and live in this place. This is probably, and the politics don't come up at all. I would guess you have a lot of Republicans and some liberals living in this campground together, and they probably don't even know because they don't seem to care. This is just people who have found a way to like get away from the world and all of those, arguments and politics and everything else that kind of rules our life, I guess you'd say, in the everyday world. The super horrible petty distractions and stresses that we have in everyday life too. And are they living in luxury surroundings, kind of like my grandma's? No, these people pretty much have, you'd almost say they're like shacks, you know, they're not, they're pretty much just drinking beer, barbecuing, wandering over to their neighbor's deck, hanging out with them, blowing off fireworks, blowing up stuff, you know, looking at the water, throwing horseshoes. It's just that kind of stuff. So your entertainment, once again, will vary whether you like hanging out in that kind of a setting. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I don't know how high Eric and Greg went on this. I'm probably going to go 4 stars on this. If there's any knock to it, that there is that level of aimlessness to it, which, you know, at times you kind of, I don't know if I really want the narrator or somebody coming in and telling me what's going on, but you do kind of want to know a little bit more about the people. Like you do get some from them just talking to each other, and they talk to the camera a little bit and tell us a little bit about their lives. But I could have used more of that. I could have used even more of, as much as I want to be separated from the world like they are and just kind of live in the world they're in, to some degree, I'd love to see that contrast. I think that contrast would have added even a bigger level of importance to what we see. Like if we had, I don't know, a segment either at the beginning or the end where we saw what their actual everyday lives are when they're not here in the island, it might have even added a degree, I think, of loss when we know that they're going to lose this island life. And I keep saying island, it's really just the shore. You know, that's really all it is. I would say it's a pretty interesting, cool documentary, especially if you can get into that vibe. You might even go 5 stars. It might be one of your favorite documentaries ever. It's like American Movie or one of those kind of movies. It's all about the people and just hanging out with. And like I said, 4 stars for me now. I could go higher on a rewatch on this. This is the kind of movie you could rewatch, because if you're in the mood, throwing this on could be like meditative and soothing, just hanging out with your friends, kind of. I don't know. It's hard to say. That is kind of my impression after seeing it once. I'll go 4 stars on Happy Campers. The other one we saw was The Instigators, which is coming out in Apple TV Plus. By the time you hear this, probably the same day or within a day, it'll be out. And The Instigators is directed by Doug Liman, who just recently did the Roadhouse, a remake, reboot, whatever you want to call it, with Jake Gyllenhaal. I didn't like Roadhouse, but I've liked some other stuff that Liman does. He's somewhere in between crowd-pleasing director and oddball director. He kind of goes in between. He goes back and forth. It's hard to describe, where he lands, but I do like some of his stuff. Anyway, The Instigators is one of those movies that makes it to streaming, like a Red Notice, like a Gray Man, if I'm remembering the name correctly, where they had a budget, they had a bunch of name actors, and you're expecting this middle of the road, straight to streaming action movie. And I think some people will watch this and probably, I don't know, slam it as being one of those movies. And I hate those movies, really don't like those movies at all, even though they sometimes are some good junk food. I think this movie has something a little better than that. I think there's something different going on here. I think it is a step above those movies for sure. So who do we have here? We've got our main people we got here is going to be Casey Affleck. He kind of plays this, he's kind of like down on his luck kind of dude. He's been in prison. He's had his crosses with the law. So he's kind of one of these guys that, he's just on the edges of society a little bit. You got Matt Damon, who's an ex-Marine, who, when you see him at the beginning, he's dealing with some mental issues, probably some PTSD. He's got some family issues, and he's kind of you can tell he's kind of down on his life, and he's got not much to lose. And then you've got a whole bunch of other people in here. You've got Alfred Molina, Ron Perlman, Paul Walter Hauser. I'm just reading the list. Hong Chow, Toby Jones, Ving Rhames. Oh my gosh. Jack Harlow. So many people. Okay. What is the basic concept? This is kind of being pushed as a comedic heist, and I don't think that really sells it the right way. It is comedic, kind of a comedic action movie. That's true. But the heist is just really the kickoff point. Basically, you've got, was it Cobby, Casey Affleck, and Rory, Matt Damon. So you got Matt Damon and Casey Affleck hired by some kind of low-life Bostonian sort of pseudo crime guys, but you can tell they're kind of not super, super powerful. But they get hired to go on an election night, or actually in the morning after an election night, because there's this corrupt politician played by Ron Perlman, and they know that he's going to have a bunch of money because he's going to have a bunch of people bribing him when he wins for favor, a bunch of people are going to bribe him and leave him cash because he works with cash. So they're going to go to this place where the election night celebration was going to be had, go there that morning when everyone's pretty much gone. And before the cash has been picked up, they're going to go in there. They're going to rob the cash, get out. That's it. They're going to get their cut. Everything's going to be cool. Casey Affleck pretty much just wants the money. He needs it for whatever. And then Matt Damon has a specific amount that he says he has to have. I think I wrote it up, $32,480. He has to have that exact amount. It has to do with him paying off a bunch of bills and and dealing with his kid. And he's got reasons for it. He's like one of those, I'm not a criminal. I'm just doing this one time only just to get the money so I can make my life better. That's kind of his role. So anyway, you get this whole scene. Let's just say things go sideways. No surprise. The whole rest of the movie is those two dealing with the fallout. And it is much more of a kind of a buddy. It's like it has the feel more like of a buddy cop movie. Or I was even saying, I think offline to Eric and Greg, I said, it also had kind of those airs of like Midnight Run or something, where you have two dudes stuck together by circumstances, don't want to be together, don't really get along, get on each other's nerves. But that banter and that interaction is the point of the movie. And sure, there's some action set pieces and there's some ridiculous, cockamamie situations they get themselves into. None of it's going to hold the test of logic. So you can kind of throw that out the window. But for an action movie, you can throw that out the window a lot of times. So really the question with most action movies, I don't know what you guys think, but with most action movies, the whole point is either the action really is exciting and that the plot is kind of beside the point, whether you believe it or not. You will basically buy the action or you won't buy the action. You'll be excited by the action or you won't be excited by the action. And then the whole rest of the thing is just whether or not you are pulled through by that. Or the other side of that coin is you have a movie that's maybe not the most exciting movie in the world, but you love the characters and the characters drive you through. And then the action set pieces just kind of drive the characters to more and more, conflict or interaction. I think this movie kind of falls in the latter category where you've got the two characters. If you like the way they kind of banter and essentially bumble through their life of crime, then you just don't care how the various obstacles get thrown their way. You just kind of watch them interact with those obstacles. And I think I did enjoy both of them and how they interacted. I think they had really good chemistry together, where you've got the Ben Affleck, who's not Ben Affleck, wrong Affleck, sorry. You got Casey Affleck, who's kind of he's not hardened, I would say, but he's more used to the world and he's more like he just expects it to go south all the time. And then you've got the Matt Damon character who expects that things should go right and is more and more annoyed by things not going right. I would say the secret sauce to this movie is, it's about a third of the way through, maybe not quite half. Hong Chau's character, who is basically the therapist for the Matt Damon character, is pulled into their situation and kind of becomes the third part of their group. And she kind of is with them pretty much the rest of the time. And I think she's sort of the secret sauce of this movie. I think her being thrown into the mix really adds a ton of fun and flavor to the movie. This isn't going to change your world. This isn't going to be the best action movie you've ever seen. This isn't going to be your next John Wick. But if you kind of miss those throwback buddy cop crime bantery kind of movies, especially that you got in the 80s and 90s, maybe early 90s more than the late 90s. If you kind of miss those, this might kind of scratch an itch for you. And I think for me, it's a 4-star movie. Once again, I expect Eric and Greg probably enjoyed this movie a fair amount. I could see one of them even going really high on it, but I bet you both of them like it because they're more action movie enjoyers than I am. So I would say, if you have Apple TV Plus, give this a try. This is definitely a cut above the other straight to streaming action movies I've seen in the last few years. So I thought The Instigators was pretty good, pretty entertaining. Okay, a couple recommendations that are not our features this week. 2. One is a series that's still going on. I'll very quickly discuss it. It's called Sunny. It's on Apple TV Plus as well. And the main actor in here, and I should have written down my notes and I didn't. I'll pull it up for you. Rashida Jones, which you probably have known from a bunch of things, but Rashida Jones is Susie. And the basic concept is this. You're in Japan at the beginning of the series. It is sort of like either an alternate reality, current reality, or just slightly in the future. Like, this is not like a futuristic sci-fi show, but the basic premise has something that we don't quite have yet. You'll see what I'm saying. She plays Sunny. And at the beginning of the movie, there's been a plane crash. So you always hear about these things where a plane has gone down wherever, in the Indian Ocean, and all these people are waiting to hear if their loved ones have died, confirmation their loved ones have died, because probably it's one of those situations where no one on the plane lived, but who knows, maybe your loved one didn't make it onto that particular plane. That's Sunny's situation. She is waiting to find out if her husband and her son have died. The assumption is they have. And as the series, or as the first episode even goes on, he worked for this company, this tech company, like in the refrigeration department or something. But little does she know, he actually worked in the AI robotics department, doing stuff that is probably secret and he wasn't supposed to be talking about. So part of this whole series is her uncovering his real past and what it was all about. And all the way along, she has a partner, and her partner is this robot. And in this world, you get robots that have, like, they're basically like, your personal assistant, your Siris, your Alexas, attached to this robot that looks a lot like the robot from Hitchhiker's Guide or something, right? Big, white, not humanoid, except for it has arms and legs, but it rolls along. It's pretty rudimentary as far as the mechanics of it. And it has this big screen face, big lit up screen face with kind of an animated face that will show the most basic emotions, just like big circle eyes and a mouth. But it talks and it can interact with her and stuff. And the thing I'm not really presenting about this is there's a lot of dark comedy. There's a lot of social satire built into this movie, this series. And like I said, it's not finished yet. I'm about 5 or 6 episodes into it, but it has this interesting thing where it's partly her interacting with this robot, and the robot, she sometimes thinks the robot might be out to kill her. She suspects the robot might not be, on the up and up, because she thinks that her husband possibly was doing something a little bit wrong with robots. Maybe the robots were getting hacked. Maybe they're getting broken into so they could be used by people. We're not sure exactly. So there's a suspicion built into the robot, but the robot's also becoming her sidekick. The robot, by the way, was given to her by the company as a way for her to deal with her grief and to help her come to terms and have a companion in her loss. That's the whole point of her having this robot. Anyway, the series so far has been pretty great. It's A24 production, easily accessible, but also has lots of weird twists and turns, which are kind of fun. She meets other humans that she kind of sidekicks up with. There's an element of the Yakuza that gets involved. So this isn't just cerebral. This isn't just talking. There is elements of suspense or elements of intrigue, elements of mystery built into this. Each episode's only about a half hour long. I would say dip into it. Give it a couple episodes. I think this is going to be kind of a little sleeper cult hit, and that is Sunny on Apple TV Plus. I can't really rate it as a full series yet. I would say I'm somewhere in the four-star range, with some episodes going up, some episodes going slightly down, but it's been really solid and good so far overall. And last but not least, my favorite watch this week was Lisa Frankenstein, directed by Zelda Williams, written by Diablo Cody. Zelda Williams is Robin Williams' daughter, if you did not know. Boy, oh boy, I love this movie. This is not going to be for everybody. Tone-wise, this is going to absolutely not work for some people, but for the people it works for, this is going to be a beloved cult movie for a ton of people. And I think a lot of people could discover this movie and enjoy it and not suspect that they would enjoy it. Basic idea is you've got Lisa, played by Catherine Newton, and Catherine Newton is fantastic in this. I know she's been in some other things, but I think this is a real breakout for her because she has to really carry this movie. Lisa played by Catherine Newton. The Creature, played by Cole Sprouse. And then a couple other people you have in here. Her stepsister is Lisa Soberano. I don't know this person, but she's really good. And then Janet, her stepmom, is played by Carla Gugino, which we love from so many things. But she has a great, not huge role, but a great role in this movie. Basic idea. This is kind of like Humanist Vampire from earlier this year. This is like even more so the Tim Burton movie that Tim Burton never made, especially early era Tim Burton movie. This just has some of that DNA in it. So that will really tell you if you are down for this movie, because it's going to have some level of that kind of quirkiness and stylization, but not quite as severe as Tim Burton does. The basic concept is this. This is in the 80s, late 80s, 89, I believe. Lisa's mother has recently died. Her father has remarried. Now she has a stepmom, as I mentioned before, Carla Gugino, and a stepsister. And Lisa is the outcast kid. She is like a Tim Burton character would be. She's in high school, and she, will spend her time hanging out and dreaming about a better life, hanging out in the local like abandoned cemetery, doing cemetery rubbings, and hanging out with this one gravestone specifically, which has a carved bust of this young man on it who was unmarried and had died. And all I will say is that after her trip to a party that goes awry because she's very antisocial, as you might suspect, she is the dark kid in the bright 80s. Lightning happens. That's it. Lightning happens, and a undead guy from the nearby graveyard just shows up at her house, and there he is. And he's just moaning and groaning and not in good shape and freaking her out. And now almost like E.T. or something, or obviously like Edward Scissorhands, but I think even almost like E.T. She has this dead thing in her house that she has to hide and starts having a friendship with. And this movie is, I love it. I think it's the tone, the comedic / sort of horrific tone of this movie, I think just is super on point for my taste, I would say. Great soundtrack. I mean, it's got 80s stuff, but it's somewhat obscure 80s stuff. Really great weird dialogue with her just interacting with the world and with this creature. That once again, if you know Diablo Cody, it doesn't quite go as hard quirkiness as she does in Juno, but you see those bits of flair in here, which I think works better here than it does in a supposedly realistic world. This is a very stylized world, which I think serves well for her style of writing. And there is a level of darkness and violence and actual stakes that I think also helps this movie quite a bit. Now, some people, and I would even count myself in this camp, some people would probably appreciate this going even darker, being like a little bit harder R. This is really like a hard PG-13, but considering what the tone this movie's going for, it's probably right where it needs to be. I was pulled in from the first, 10 or 15 minutes. I would highly, highly recommend at least giving Lisa Frankenstein a chance. I think this beat my expectations quite a bit. I thought it would be way goofier, and it is kind of goofy, but it's goofy in the right way to me. I thought it'd be way goofier and way lighter and wouldn't hit me like this does. I think this is going to be a kind of definitely a cult classic for people. And for me, this is going to be an easy rewatch and an easy own. I'm going to say 4.5 right now. This probably will go up to 5 stars for me because I really love this movie. Yeah, Lisa Frankenstein is great. Okay, I guess that's all I have for this week. I like talking to y'all. Hope I didn't lead you astray on any of these movies, and I hope I didn't like something that Eric and Greg hated. I kind of doubt it. I think we're gonna probably align pretty well this week. Everything was pretty good this week. Lisa Frankenstein is probably the only one that really kind of blew away my expectations, but everything's pretty good. Anyway, have a great week, y'all. I will see some of you or hear some of you soon, and who knows what we have coming up next week. I know Alien Romulus is coming up in a week or so. Not next week. I won't be here next week because that'll be after the next show. The week after, we should have Alien Romulus, which I know a lot of you are very excited to hear and see. All right, I'm out.